Greetings. I decided to post today on Sunday. We weren't supposed to go again until Tuesday, but there's a story idea we've been working on for several weeks that keeps being delayed by other activities going on. In particular, there's a company called Daimler Benz, and there's a company called Tesla. Daimler Benz operates like a lot of big companies, and the concept is avoid failure versus, in the case of Tesla, there's a concept called fail fast. That's sort of the norms of Silicon Valley. So this is kind of bonus coverage because, again, we weren't supposed to be on. And I wanted to explore this because Tesla has been working hard to increase the number of EV manufacturers. But at the same time, he keeps putting them out of business. So the question is, what's the deal here in sort of those two components? This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time on our channel, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We weren't supposed to be on today. So the other thing I wanted to note is that we do have a couple of ads in. We'd ask that you do 5 to 10 seconds of it. And if you could help us with a dollar or two on Patreon a month, it'd be greatly appreciated. We're working hard to improve the quality of our equipment, and especially the camera equipment has been mentioned numerous times by our visitors, and we'd appreciate your help there. I'd also like to ask that you hit us with a like, because that like influences the ranking of our videos and therefore how much time we spend and where we are in the list. So your like is actually very important, and we'd appreciate it if you do that. So this is not a long talk. We've been working on this story for, like I said, weeks, not months. And there's a conundrum, which is Tesla's trying to help other EV manufacturers get into the business because there's so much EV work to be done that Tesla is actually concerned about whether or not those companies will exist, and the fact that the market for EVs are so large. And by the way, I can see Jerry and I can see the comments you're making and questions. And I just wanted to note, I can see all of you, but I'm deliberately not responding till the end of the video because I know that the folks that are watching this after the live session are not happy about the interruption of the conversation. So thanks, Jerry. Can see you in Sweden. No respect, brethren, etc. But we'll get to the end of that. So what is going on is that there's this idea in Silicon Valley called fail fast. So what that means is that, let's say you're in New York and you're at a big company, right? That company's process, or you're in Germany or you're Daimler or VW, one of these others, you have a manager who's risen in his ranks and he's doing great, making good money, his family's happy, everything's going great. What happens is if something comes up, those companies will actually carefully do studies over time, possibly years, before they make big moves, particularly if it involves big dollars. And what happens then is they've carefully studied it and they make a decision and they move. Well, this is good, but in today's world of fast moving everything, there's this huge issue that comes up with that, which is that you can't, the marketplaces are moving so fast. I think it was Alan Greenspan that made the comment that there's a situation where there are entities or businesses that are born and become commodities and go out in 3 years. So as you spend all of this time doing analyzing, it's possible that you miss your window or miss your market, and your company is crippled by that miss. So I chose a title I did today because in Silicon Valley, we have a concept called fail fast. And what that means is that the best decision makers get together, they study a problem, they come up with a solution, and then they implement that solution and then figure out, oh, does this work or not work? If it doesn't work, who cares? Everybody was involved. We all made the decision. Let's take the lessons that we've gained from this and keep going. Now, the difference between Silicon Valley, let's say Germany or New York, is that in Germany or New York, in theory, at the senior management level, everybody associated with that decision gets fired. And so their families starve. So what this does is it incentivizes people to get into analysis paralysis because they know that their livelihoods are on the line. In Silicon Valley, we do things a little bit differently. Namely, you'll see failures and people will be like, oh, that sucker failed. And they'll be like, wow, what did we learn from that? How do we take those lessons into our next session? There are many examples that you'll see lurking within Tesla that illustrate the point. And one great example is we did a show probably probably 9 months ago. And what that show focuses on is that Tesla had an idea, which was it only takes 15 minutes to swap out the battery pack underneath the car and put in a new one. And so what they decided to do is and you guys can see the photos, and I may actually make it the thumbnail for this, but we'll see depending on what you guys tell me. So what they did was they built a building in a place called Harris Ranch, California, which is one of the main sort of Tesla test facilities for superchargers. And this facility will actually swap out your battery. So you pull in 15 minutes, they take your battery, swap in a new one, and you're gone. So their theory was, why would some people had to work 3 hours to get a charge, and why not do 15 minutes to swap out the battery? Well, guess what? Colossal failure. The company Tesla did this. The problem was that a lot of people in their Model S's were like, I don't know how someone else was handling their battery. So why would I want them to swap a battery in of unknown sort of driver attitude, if you will? So basically people are like, that's my battery, I'm keeping it in my car, and I'll wait 3 hours and charge if it's a busy period. And what Elon Musk, et cetera, has talked about is that they have this problem of sort of peak usage. So Friday night and Sunday night are peak, and then all these other times during the week, there's very little happening there. And so you end up with long waits of folks that need to get their cars charged up. And it's a critical location because it's kind of midpoint between LA and San Francisco. So, it's an important spot. So I'm kind of getting into this because Daimler is sort of the main spend money and try to catch up a Tesla company, even though Daimler hasn't had very much EV. I mean, they did a EV product, both truck and car, where they participated with Tesla, but that kind of broke up. And they've been trying to build their own batteries and work with Korean companies to sort of build and execute. Daimler is making progress. I say that they're making progress because if you look at their current trucks, they're actually using liquid cooled rather than air cooled. And that optimization is part of what Tesla has brought forward. As we all know, things like the Nissan Leaf are suffering mightily because they're doing air cooled, and it's not as efficient on a large battery to air cool, and therefore the cells die a lot. So I was sort of picking up on this fail fast thing / is Tesla killing off all these companies that it's supposed to be trying to help get into EVs? And so an incident came up that I'm still like I'm shaking my head and I'm like, I can't believe this. This is weird. So what the incident is that if you guys go back 3 or 4 shows, you'll see we did a talk on the fact that it's raining heavily and we're trying to get ventilation in. So you'll notice that there's something that occurred, which is that Tesla actually got into a situation with Daimler Benz. And when I say a situation, the issue that pops up is that Daimler Benz came up with a good idea, which is to produce their own battery packs. And no, they don't want to produce them and to sell them in Germany, where they have all that install base, maybe Japan, maybe China or something. They want to go to America because they want to compete with Tesla. I was then scratching my head because you have all these Mercedes dealerships with this power pack, but you ain't got no cars for them power packs to work with. So how exactly are you leveraging your brand to get into this business when you have no cars for the power packs to work with? So basically, as we covered, Daimler introduced these power packs. Tesla followed on the initial power pack with version 2.0 operating on the 2170 battery, and the price of 2.0 for the battery packs for your home is half the cost of the first power pack. And so there's a $2,000 or $2,500 less for the Tesla product that stores more. So now Daimler Benz was screwed. They've done engineering work. They found a partner. Their reputation is out there. They have no cars, that are customers that might use this product. And so they just announced that they're canceling it. The one angle that I saw for this was that Daimler was trying to figure out, well, can we help Tesla lose some money, even if this whole thing makes no sense? Can we help Tesla lose some money by them having to compete with us on power packs, and therefore it distracts them, slows them down perhaps in other things they're doing? And the answer to that was, if Tesla's selling 30% lower than you are, and Tesla has an install base of customers that are natural fits for those power packs based on them having electric vehicles in their etc. So I love Daimler. They're a great company, 100 years old. They're the biggest in trucks in the world. They're one of the biggest car producers. But does that make any sense at all? So, I want to call that an unforced error, like in tennis, because how can a company as big as Daimler make a stupid mistake like that? And, well, obviously nobody got fired, so they are operating a little bit like Silicon Valley. To follow this on, I've been asking this question for months, 6 months, maybe even a year. And the question was, wait a second, if GM and all the VW, all these companies are losing $10,000 per car at a $35,000 to $40,000 price point, is Tesla trying to put out of business certain companies? So, for example, with Chrysler, they're not even bothering with this, and they're hoping to merge with somebody. So Tesla could seriously jeopardize certain companies in terms of their future viability. So the question that comes up is, why doesn't Tesla just raise their price to $45K? Now all these companies, including GM, can make money on their cars, and they can make enough of them to add to the whole EV pool. Excellent question. Weird answer. So number one, if you have a car that goes under 100 miles, 25% of the population is interested. If you have a car that goes 300 miles between charge, 75% of the population is interested. So obviously, if you increase the number of miles, the percent of the population willing to purchase the vehicle is greater. The next problem that pops up in terms of that data is, in essence, the more expensive the car is, the fewer people that can afford it. So $35K ain't cheap, but it's kind of an inflection point where you're at a point where half the market is still viable at $35K. Now, as we all know, Tesla right now is at about $60,000. With credits, it sort of roams in that 50-ish zone. So a $50,000 car is actually a pretty heavy price to pay, and you're freezing out a bunch of the population when you do that. But the problem Tesla has is, once you get to 35K, let's for giggles say 60% of the people out there can afford to buy that car or think about buying it. Once you get to every $10,000 increase in price, you start to lose the number of consumers that are possible customers for those vehicles. So Tesla is trying to grow the market of EV entities out there that are viable. But on the other hand, there's a customer-based problem of the higher the price, the lower the number of buyers. So as we get into this discussion of all these brand new competitors, they're all entering at high-end vehicles that are 80K plus, and Tesla has a nice beachhead there of folks that are happy with what they do. But the problem that pops up is that as we drop down to those lower price points, we pick up a whole bunch more people. Hence, by this time next year, May of next year, I expect the 35K 200-mile range Model 3 to be available. And we can see that once we get to 35K, there's a lot of interest, particularly if you add an EV credit to it. So in places like Canada, that has a $14,000 discount for EVs, that turns into a 21K car. So there's all kinds of demand down there, but the demand has to include a certain amount of range for the vehicle. So in our conclusion here, Tesla isn't trying to put people out of business. They're trying to improve what they're doing to optimize the value that they offer to customers. And in the process, they're creating havoc for a lot of entities that are trying to chase, catch, and surpass. And so as people talk about this 5-year beachhead of advantage that Tesla has, I have to say that, you know, it's a legitimate advantage. And there are many very well-heeled competitors that are attempting to close out that advantage and therefore move into a power position to compete. Now, please, happy to take questions or comments that you might have. I'm kind of the end of this. We've been sort of developing this conversation for a while, but all these exciting things keep happening with Tesla that we've been covering, and hence we haven't gotten into this. Frankly, in order for the planet to have the impact that Tesla's talking about, we actually do need other folks to actually come in, produce successfully, and be a part of this. So everyone sets it up as a huge battle between X and Y and death to the battle. And the reality is that there's just so much demand. There's no way in the world that one company can satiate it, but it allows Tesla to enter and thrive and be fine. But this sort of answers some of the left and rights of what's been going on. Any rate, typically our shows run about 20 minutes. We're heading towards that zone. I wanted to quickly say hello, enough respect to my brethren. Hey, Jerry. Hello in Norway. Greetings to all of you, and thanks for breaking time off to being around with us. We actually look forward to subject areas that you guys think we should dive into. The whole fail fast versus analysis paralysis or fail slow program is really interesting, and it's fascinating to watch in a whole number of industries the gap between how things are done in Silicon Valley versus how things are done in the regular corporate America, and a lot of entities being forced into sort of joining the party, to make some things happen. Just a reminder again, please take time to like. Your likes affect our rankings on how these videos go out and sit in the SEO of Google. So please take time to like. We greatly appreciate your subscribing. We have a Patreon link below and could use support in that space as well. I actually have sort of one of our staff members is, I have his, as an auto program now, I have his referral code. I just think that as a key advisor to us, we're happy to support him, and I haven't gotten my car yet to sort of get in the mix. So that's another item to consider in terms of if you have an interest in purchasing. At any rate, want to thank all of you who've made comments today in support. Our view changed today, as you can see. We're inside the car again. I do try to move around Washington, D.C. As you know, there are some people not happy with my last choice, but it's nothing personal. I just enjoy. We want to do a variety of things, to sort of improve the image. At any rate, this is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Again, thanks, Jerry, and all of you that have taken time out to make comments. I wanted to note, Jerry, we now have friends in Sweden in the form of my friend from Jamaica there. So I know you want to go visit. We all want to come visit there. So, we need to figure out this whole Sweden visitation program. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Tschüss, German. Au revoir, French. Lahithro, Hebrew. Choda Hafez. And in Jamaica, we say, "Enough respect, walk, good man." Any rate, thanks once again for joining us, and look forward to any and all comments you might have beneath our channel. And we'll look forward to our next show. We're still going to go on Tuesday. Good day, mate. We're still going to go on Tuesday. I've been sort of eager to do this show because it's fascinating to watch what's happening with people basically getting crushed by Tesla because they lack the technology.